Okay, part number 4. So last time, which was so helpful, we begin to venture into the spiritual gifts, and hopefully people have been having some of those conversations. But what I think is really necessary now is for us to have a conversation around the tension that spiritual gifts can bring. So we've chatted a little bit about this, but just to kind of bring people up to speed, there are many different gifts, and when that's evident, people will want to move in different directions. So the example I was talking to you guys about is the evangelist, the gift of evangelism, will want to move in that direction, whereas the gift of shepherd or pastor will want to operate differently within ministry. What I'm not advocating for, before you two tell me off, is that I don't
Would
have the
we
gift.
ever?
I don't have the gift of evangelism, therefore I'm not going to evangelize. That's not what we're saying. But some people will move differently within church. How do we do this but stay unified? Like what's helpful for people as we're wrestling with this, to go, listen, let's not do a Paul and Barnabas and just have a sharp disagreement and fall out and go separate ways. How do we move in different directions but stay unified? Where would you start with that?
I don't think the gifts cause tension.
I knew you were going to say something profound. That's so.
I don't know if it's profound or not, or really heretical, but I don't. Here's why I don't think the spiritual gifts cause tension. The Spirit gives the gifts, and every gift that comes from the Lord is good.
Right.
And the Lord is not bringing us into tension, He's bringing us into unity. So it's not the spiritual gifts that are causing the tension. It's our lack of discipleship and our flesh as we operate in the gifts that God has given us that's causing the tension.
That is so good.
That's the problem. If we start to make an issue around spiritual gifts being then we're making it into something it's not. There should be no tension. Just the way the gifts are described in terms of the body, the kidney is not in tension with the liver. It's just ridiculous. So we have created idea that there's tension when the spiritual gifts come together. No, there's tension when people come together carrying their own flesh and their lack of discipleship into the room, and that looks like a whole lot of different things. So does that flare up in the way that people use their gifts? Absolutely. That's why the letters address some of that stuff, I think how do we navigate utilizing our spiritual gifts in a way that honors the Lord is by understanding that in the spiritual gifts passages, it talks about honor one another more than yourself. So I think one of the issues with discipleship generally, but spiritual gifts specifically, is self-focused ministry. So all I can see is my gift and how that ought to operate. And what the passage instead is encouraging us to do, I think it's the one in Romans, to honor one another more than yourself, is that I'm not looking to how can I use my spiritual gift. I'm looking to yours. So if I'm looking to yours and calling you up into what you need to be doing, and you're looking to me, calling me up into what I'm doing, everybody's flourishing, everybody's winning, and there is no tension.
So good.
But if I'm over here saying, well, what about my gift not being used? And you're over there saying, what about my gift not being used? Then we've turned opposite directions with our gifts, instead of the gifts should be pulling us towards one another, because everything the Spirit gives pulls us into unity. But it only pulls us into unity when we're looking to the other person, not to ourselves, not to self-interest. The gifts are not about ourselves. It's not about my brilliant idea, my proclivities, that is not the point.
Right.
If we're to be healthy community operating in our spiritual gifts, our focus should be calling it out of somebody else and making room for the other. If everybody's making room for the other, there's room for everyone.
Yeah.
And so I don't think the spiritual gifts cause tension. I think our lack of discipleship causes tension.
What a start. That's
Maybe.
so. No,
I know
come
it
on,
is.
Lee, that's so true. That's so good.
It's absolutely brilliant, and it is the total biblical view of spiritual gifts. That whole passage about the body, and as you said about the kidney and the liver. It is about understanding, like, I need you. You need me. We are not in competition here. It is completely as we understand that the Lord puts us all together with our own individual, both personalities and giftings. And as we pull together as opposed to compete with each other, then you know, the gifts are given so that the church will be built up. That's the whole point. The gifts are there for the blessing of other people. They're not about, they aren't essentially about you.
Right.
So they're given for the benefit of others. In fact, the only one that it ever says that will benefit you is speaking in tongues. It says if you speak in tongues, you'll build yourself up. But all the other gifts are about other people. So, you know, I think you're absolutely right, Charlotte, when you say it's a question of discipleship and character. Because, you know, what happens is we have a wrong view of the gifts, for one thing. You know, we do take on our cultural the things that our culture tells us. So therefore, anything that is maybe more public or has, you know, got greater, you know, gets greater exposure. Well,
Yeah.
if you're on you're more important than the person who's setting out the chairs. And we absolutely know that that is counter kingdom. The kingdom of God, it turns all of that on its head. So therefore, there isn't one person that is more important than their contribution is not more important than the other. They're all absolutely necessary. But we still find it really hard to get our heads around that. We really do. And we say, yeah, but we don't, in our hearts, we don't really believe it. So we end up feeling it plays into our insecurities or it plays into our competitiveness, you know. So, you know, and all of those things are issues that the Lord wants to deal with within our own lives. So it's as we grow in God and grow in our character. That's why I think, you know, we always say the gifts of the Spirit are available to everybody, no matter how young in the faith they are. You know, that you can receive a gift of the Spirit no matter how young in the faith you are. But your ability to operate that gift will increase and develop as the, you know, the character of Jesus develops in your life.
Right.
So, you know, those things have to go hand in hand. So, I mean, you just said there really is no need for the competitiveness, or, you know, and we all think that our passion is the one thing that everybody should be passionate about. But it's sort of understanding, no, we need all of those passions flowing and coming together in order to see the work done.
So is it, I mean, for us in the discovery of our gifts, somebody has the gift of, you know, they discover a prophetic gifting or a teaching gift that you both have stewarded and walked with. I mean, is it really important then to do that with others? Don't go off sort of by yourself and get isolated, like stay in.
Oh, completely. And I mean, the prophetic gift is a classic case of, I mean, I would say, you know, I don't even want to receive a word from someone who's a lone ranger, who isn't in relationship with anybody, whose life isn't submitted in some way to, you know, a community of people. Because, you know, you just have so much room for error, especially in that prophetic sphere. If you're not in community and you're not submitting your life to other people, you know. So, you know, we don't want lone rangers. It just doesn't. It's not scriptural, and it doesn't work. It's dangerous.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I just think this is so helpful for us to wrestle with, in the sense, so there isn't a competitive edge, to have the perspective that we need each other. So to do the works that God has ordained, we need each other to fulfill that and do that. How then does somebody navigate that passion? So, you know, you might have somebody that's going, okay, I need to bring my passion down, but then how do you actually run with, like, so somebody that's really passionate about sort of mission, or, you know, really feels like we as the church need to be out in every nation helping the marginalized, you know, why is everybody not doing this? How would you help somebody navigate that, where they really are passionate in their gifting?
I don't think anyone needs to reduce their passion. I think that we need to increase our love.
Right.
You know, you are passionate because the Lord has birthed that in you, but to diminish somebody else because they are not you is unbiblical and detrimental. And the beauty of those passages in spiritual gifts is they're all couched in conversations about love. you know, and so I can speak with the tongues of angels, but if I don't have love, I am like a clanging gong. Like I am literally not bringing clarity, I'm bringing confusion, even though I have this incredible gift. And so I think that whenever we feel, because we are human, so it's okay that we, you know, we can't not feel some of those things, but when we do feel them, we need to be ruthlessly bringing them before the Lord. So say for example, I feel like somebody's not taking something seriously that I care very deeply about, and it riles me and it rattles me. I can't leave that that angst on the inside of me without bringing that before the Lord and saying something is happening inside of me and I am diminishing this other person. I can feel it in me that I'm thinking, well, they're an idiot because they don't get this. And I know that's not what this is about. So Lord, will you please show me how to handle this and increase my level of love. So as my level of passion about what you made me passionate about increase my level of love for everybody I encounter, you know. And I just think that we need to be ruthless with ourselves when we find ourselves diminishing somebody else. We need to be ruthless about that because the whole point of the story is we're becoming one. And anything that leads to us not becoming one needs to be ruthlessly dealt with. We can't allow that to sit and say, oh, it's just because of my personality. It's just the way that I am, you know, I can't work with people. Well, tough. You can't work with people. Class. The Spirit produces supernatural love and peace inside of us so that we can work with people. So if we're struggling to work with people, the Spirit needs to just produce greater levels of love and peace so that we can. We don't get to opt out because I have a certain gift or a certain personality type that makes it difficult for me to be in community. If it's difficult, that's no problem. The Spirit will empower us. You don't get to opt out.
I mean, essentially what we're saying is that when we're talking about this issue of, you know, tensions, that it's, you said it right at the beginning, Charlotte, we're really not talking about a spiritual gift problem. We are talking about a discipleship issue. But the other thing I was thinking was the other side of that coin is, in terms of people's passion, is that there are times when we do need to hear there are times when a church can get sidelined and forget that their main mission is to reach out, and it's not all about an internal focus. And you need the passion of the evangelist to come and say, come on, guys, you know, we need to be more outward focused here. There's times when you need the passion of the people who have the gift of mercy to say, look at our community, look, you know, and we've had that on our journey in CFC. We've had people with those passions where that was lacking in our community life together, and their passion ignited something in us and caused us to shift and change and make decisions in light of what they were bringing. So, you know, there's a good thing about that as well. There's a good thing about that tension sometimes. It's not all negative, oh, we have to keep everything, you know, like in perfect balance here. It's like sometimes we need that passion to give us a wake-up call to say, no, like we're slightly off track here. We need to get that wider view of what the church is all about, you know.
And I think the difficulty with that comes whenever there's relational breakdown, because that passion is not something you can chuck at people and expect them to pick up. Humans work via relationships, via trust. These are massively important, these relational trust networks that we build. So say, for example, somebody has the gift of mercy and is thinking, we're in here having a jolly good time, but there's somebody down the road that couldn't feed their children tonight, and this is not okay. If somebody just walks in and has no relationship with the church community and starts to shout about that, they're far too easily dismissed. But if that's somebody you know and love and is part of your, say, Connect group, and you are far more likely to be awakened by their passion because you know them and you love them, and there's this relational trust, and you don't feel like you're being told off by somebody who doesn't even, like, you don't know me. Because in Northern Ireland, we're very like this, like, you don't know me, who are you to tell me?
Right.
But if that's somebody who you're in relationship with and you love, and they're open to you and you're open to them, then we're all built up. So that's why that passion brought into robust communal relationships, where that's becomes so important. Otherwise, if someone's gift sits in the periphery of the community, it will always be in the periphery of the community. The only way for that passion to become part of the DNA of a space is for people to be part of the culture. You know, be in relationship with people, do the miles. People need to do the miles with other people if they expect to bring change, because we brush up shoulders back. Like even Jesus walks with these disciples for years, and they're changed into his image as they walk with him. Not he comes and gives them a lecture and then goes off and does his thing and then comes back and says, why are you not doing this? You ought to be doing this. And doesn't. That's not how this works.
Yeah.
It works in relationships. So I think that focus on those relationships alongside that passion is just, like you say, it keeps us all on track. We need everybody, but we need everybody to be part of the communal life.
Again, so helpful. And so to finish then, I just want to, from the perspective of somebody that's at church and is almost, they feel like the church is not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They feel really strongly. What would you advise to somebody if that's the case, that they're sitting in part of a church and they are like so passionate about evangelism, for example, and they're like, our church is not doing this. What's a helpful practical outworking of how to navigate that?
Well, my first question is always, what do we mean by the church?
Right.
So when we're saying the church isn't doing that, what do we mean when we use the phrase the church? Because we are the church.
Right.
So if we are doing it, the church is doing it. If they mean that the church, as in the group of local community I belong to, are not doing that, what do they mean by they're not doing that? And how robustly has that been tested, that theory that it's not being done? I think that there are lots of questions around those things that we have to be careful not to blame, shame, and abdicate. These are all possibilities for all of us. That's a possibility for me that I can do all of those things. And I think that the work begins with us, and it begins with the relationships that we're in and being part of something. I think that we need to be really careful about deflection and our passion. The difficulty is the enemy's always looking for a way to pollute the beauty of what we carry. He's always looking for a way to pollute it. We just can't let him. We just can't let the enemy get in between us. So we can have open, honest conversations so long as they are birthed in love and respect and honour, and we are as willing to listen as we are to speak.
That's good.
And we have listened before we've spoken. And that goes across the board on every matter in church life. We need to listen before we speak.
That's great.
Otherwise, we're not speaking from an educated space.
That's great.
And I mean, you find over and over again when you have conversations with people, oh my goodness, like, so I didn't know that was happening,
Yeah.
or I didn't know that person was doing that, or I didn't, you are confined to your own little world at times, and so therefore there's loads of stuff happens in a church, even a smaller church. There's loads of stuff happening that I personally don't know about. So therefore, again, it is about perspective, and that sometimes you need someone to give you who has a. Who even to have the chat with leadership, because they're going to have a greater sense of what's happening across the board and can fill you in some of those things. The only thing is, I think it's good to have the honest conversations. I'd say for the people who do feel frustrated, a greater frustration is that when they come and have the conversation, and maybe there is a genuine issue, they're sent out made to feel like you don't really understand what's going on here. Do you know what I mean? So I think what the attitudes that Charlotte is talking about have got to be a two-way
Mutual.
street.
Right.
So that if there is a genuine issue, the person does feel, I have been heard. I really have been heard. So, all of the above is.
Well, because what you guys are saying is it's not just one part. Like
we all need
as
to
a
listen.
site pastor of a church, and you previously having pastoral and now doing consulting role, like it's not just up to you. You two don't have all the gifts. It's every person in the seat has gifts,
Absolutely.
and we all now need to steward that and walk with that. So
Yeah, and listen to one another. We just need to be better. I think that listening is a dying art. And I know for me, I need to develop, that's one of the things I need to develop more and more, is the ability not just to let somebody talk, but to listen, to hear each other, And I
good.
think if we do that, we'll not go too far wrong. The Lord will keep us right. And like you say, honesty is so important. having a space to be honest and respectful, and also to recover. You know, the reality is, because we're humans in community, not just around the gifts but around everything, there's always going to be disagreements, there's always going to be injury. That's just going to happen because none of us are perfect. And being able to, what we do off the back of those things is so important. How do we recover post-injury and not, you know, and have honest conversations, be listened to, apologise to one another, have grace for one another. This is lovely. This is part of sanctification.
Absolutely.
This is how we're sanctified.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, so it's not like, oh, we want this perfect church where nobody disagrees. No, we want to learn. We want to develop together. How do we disagree? How do we, you know, actually want to punch each other in the face, but be okay? Like the next day, be like, it's fine. We get it. You know,
Well,
how
that's
do we
family,
recover?
isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the
And,
family.
you know, if there were no disagreements, that's unhealthy.
Yeah, because nobody's saying what they really think.
Exactly. Yeah.
And all you get then is passive aggression.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, well, thank you guys. It's good conversation. So let's pause there, give people a chance to chat, and we'll come back.